Horikoshi just revealed Deku's new upgrade for his future hero costume. And with this upgrade, Deku and Class A are preparing for the biggest war in the history of My Hero Academia. And it's going to be crazy. My Hero Academia chapter 339 is titled The Story of How We All Became Heroes Part 2, where it follows Deku and Ida and their journey of getting new hero costumes, Deku's new mid-gauntlet, the truth about the UA barrier, and the preparation for Class A and the other heroes to grow their firepower while diminishing the villain's firepower and wait for the greatest war in all of My Hero Academia, makes this chapter a little bit more intriguing than you may think. Hey! Wise. My Hero Academia chapter 339 begins where My Hero Academia chapter 338 ends, where Deku and Class A effectively forgave Aoyama for working with the villains and being the UA traitor, and after Aizawa Sensei identified a plan that would use Aoyama to swindle All For One in some way, shape, or form, Class A showed all of their determination to take down the villains and save Aoyama, declaring that they would do everything they can to stop All For One and bring down the villains. But before Class A can actually start that process, two characters needs new upgrades. Both Deku and Ida's hero costume has been destroyed, and they needed a way for their hero costumes and support items to be fixed. So they decided to ask Mei Hatsume from the support course, assuming that her brilliant mind and her technologies will be able to help. And this is where we transition to My Hero Academia chapter 339. This chapter begins with Mei Hatsume greeting Deku and Ida while apologizing for effectively exploding Deku and putting her tatas on his face. Interestingly enough, the first thing that Deku mentions is that his danger sense didn't activate and that Mei Hatsume caught him off guard. Now Ida did respond with it was just her tatas, but I still have reasons to believe that Horikoshi is adding this information in because it's important to know about the limitations of danger sense. Now, if this was the first time that Deku mentioned his danger sense didn't activate, then I think it'll be considerably easier to just go with the flow and say that Ida was right. But if you remember in My Hero Academia chapter 320, during the Deku retrieval arc, Deku mentioned that he was in no real danger and there was no true malice, and that danger sense would have alerted him otherwise, but Class A is not setting it off. And contrasting that with what happened in My Hero Academia chapter 323, where when Deku was brought back to UA and the civilians were screaming at him, telling him that they don't want him there, his danger sense was triggered heavily, so much so that he couldn't not activate it, more likely due to the fact that there was malicious intent behind the words of the civilians, even though they didn't attempt to attack Deku, and in fact they were actually a good ways away from Deku in the first place. So Deku's danger sense not activating with the explosions of Mei Hatsume is actually more important than we think, and it may be even more of a hint to the limitations of his quirk, being that it's possible that someone who is so emotionally controlled, such as All For One, will be able to mitigate or go past the overpoweredness of Deku's danger sense quirk, especially considering the fact that the fourth user of One For All in the One For All void was able to activate danger sense even when he was very playful with the fifth One For All user. All this means is that Deku has not hit the potential for danger sense just yet, and with the final war of My Hero Academia coming up, this might be a huge crutch for Deku. But in continuing, Ida mentioned that they came to the support course team because their hero costumes are in need of repair, and Mei Hatsume questioned why he didn't just go to the item office like they always do. Ida responded saying that they couldn't count on the office because the distribution lines are completely crippled at the moment, with the reason being obviously because the entire hero society is in turmoil. So the next best thing is to go to the support department. But Mei Hatsume had to make it very difficult for Ida and Deku because it's here that she started showing signs that she was oblivious to what was going on in the outside world, even having Deku question if she knows of the stakes that's going on in this particular time. Nonetheless, we then see Power Loader, who is the lead teacher of the support department, and he brings Deku and Ida into the support department to talk about what they need when it comes to their costumes. Now, crazy enough, I didn't remember, nor did I expect for there to be an actual class amount of students in this department, where it not only looks like there could be easily around 20 students in this department, but they're actually working really hard, and that's shown through the disastrous look of the department in the first place. But even more crazy than that, we find out that the support department actually was the ones who created the UA barrier. And not only did they develop the UA barrier, but they're also in charge of the operational side of the UA barrier as well. Now, I'm quite positive that Horikoshi is not going to go into extensive details about the intricacies on the UA barrier as far as how it operates and different quirks or different limitations of the UA barrier. But the thing that interests me the most is the idea that the people who created the most secure system in the entire world, rivaling the security system of Tartarus itself, are about to develop new hero costumes for Deku and Ida. So when it comes to the top of the line quality in reference to the future hero costumes of Deku and Ida, my expectations are out of this world. We continue on with Deku showing Mei Hatsume his mid-gauntlets, mentioning to her that they're just a prototype model from overseas, possibly done by Melissa Shields, and that he wants Mei Hatsume to fix it up. And if I'm being honest, this next portion is my favorite portion of this entire chapter, because Mei Hatsume immediately asked Deku if he needs these mid-gauntlets quickly, and with a very serious and determined face, Deku said yes. But Mei Hatsume pulled the loop and pull and said, no, you're not gonna get it. She mentions that with the amount of damage that the mid-gauntlets has taken, she would essentially need to create an entirely new one. And what's more, Deku's mid-gauntlet uses the latest compression technology, which requires particular materials that they currently do not have. So it's pretty much impossible. And not only that, but Ida then comes in and tells her that he needs a new armor, to which she immediately turns him down as well, saying that she doesn't have spec sheets, so she can't do it either. And the reason why I love this portion of the chapter more than any other is what happens right after that. Two more students from the support department tells Deku and Ida that they don't have to worry and that they will be working on their hero costume. As we see Mei Hatsume herself quite literally multitasking, checking on the evacuation block with her right hand while simultaneously creating Deku's new mid-gauntlets with her left. Ida mentions that it's very strange that being the machine geek that Mei Hatsume is, he would have expected her to take up the offer of fixing things instantaneously. But what Ida may not have considered is that she's changed. Power Loader mentioned that when it came to strengthening the UA barrier, Mei Hatsume was called on to help, and if the time of evacuation ever arises, she would come up with new mechanics on a whim, because her strong points are her energy and her ideas. Deku heard this and immediately attributed her focus and her drive of creating the UA barrier and new inventions as to the reason why she didn't know what was going on outside. And this is where Mei Hatsume brought everybody down to earth, saying that Deku is very much naive because she is very much aware of the fact that Deku and the rest of the heroes are in a very strict predicament. And the reason why she puts so much effort into creating better ideas and having so much energy to bring those ideas into life is because her and people in the support department can't fight. So in order to protect people like Deku and the others in the hero course, they constantly have to invent new gadgets. In Mei Hatsume's mind, that makes them equal, because making the inventions and the support items for the people who actually save people is the support department's way of becoming heroes. That message from Mei Hatsume made me appreciate her even more so, because it brings you back to the realization that heroes in My Hero Academia are nothing without the support items that helps them regulate their powers. Deku without his mid-gauntlets will be considerably more damaged in his fight against Lady Nagant and his fight against Muscular and all the other villains he's been fighting during his time being Rogue, which will put his body and subsequently his entire life on the line, making it so that he wouldn't even be able to save as many people as he otherwise did. So people like Mei Hatsume should be viewed just as much as heroes as the pro heroes that go in battle, such as Deku and the people in the hero course. I really love the idea of being equal that Horikoshi has been bashing into our school over the last 5 chapters, because it really does bring the necessary perspective to truly appreciate everyone genuinely. Now, as Mei Hatsume finishes her speech, she throws an item at Deku, mentioning that making an exact copy is nearly impossible, and that although this support item isn't quite the exact same level, Deku should give it a shot. This by itself is mind-blowing, because as I mentioned earlier in the video, she quite literally created a mid-gauntlet for Deku with just her left hand and given a speech to Deku and Ida as to why she does what she does. Now, interestingly enough, Deku also received the black whip glove that he had from previously before. So I'm quite curious, although it's probably not going to work the exact same, I'm interested into seeing how these new mid-gauntlets are going to work with Deku's quirks. Because if I know anything about Mei Hatsume, she is different. Being different is different. She also did the exact same thing for Ida, saying that she couldn't replicate his previous armor, but until then, this should do the trick. And the last words that she said before Deku and Ida left was to tell the hero department that this will be our victory. We then go all the way to where Class A is currently at, where we see Mount Lady and everyone in Class A in their hero costume preparing to do something interesting. Mount Lady mentioned that she's well aware of everything that Class 1A has been through. However, with what has been going on in the world, they can't let up a single day. So the immediate plan for Mount Lady, Class A, and the rest of the heroes are to eliminate the remnants of the Paranormal Liberation Front and the League of Villains. And as she's saying this, Mina Ashido is still very much worried about Aoyama, saying that she wonders if Aoyama would take the hands of Deku in Class A. And actually, that's a really good point, because in My Hero Academia chapter 338, when Deku called out to Aoyama as he was being escorted outside of UA, Aoyama couldn't utter a single word and couldn't even look at Deku himself, showing that he's very much contemplating everything because he still has done villainous things and he's confused as to why they want to take him back. So I definitely want your thoughts in the comment section below on if you think Aoyama will actually take the hands of Class A. By the way, if you want to collect My Hero Academia mangas, check out my Amazon shop store where you can purchase every single volume of My Hero Academia and I get a small commission for your purchase. The link will be in the description and also in the pinned comments. But Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto seems to be believers that Aoyama will do what he needs to do. Deku saying that he believes Aoyama will come back for sure, whereas Bakugo says as long as he doesn't get in their way, that's good enough for him. However, Shoto says Aoyama will be fine and that he's certain that he already has a clear picture of what he wants to become, which is a very neutral idea compared to Bakugo and Deku, and it very much suits his character, being that he's half cold, half hot, neutral. That's corny. I'm done. But after this very emotional moment for Class A, Mount Lady mentioned that it's time to move and that they have to work around Deku, which again is a very important thing to understand because Deku is the only person that can effectively take down All for One. Now this is one of the most fascinating parts of the chapter that I was not expecting in the slightest. We actually move to the Kansai region where we see Fat Gum, Tamaki Amajiki, and Nejire Hado taking out villains and protecting civilians in their region. Now the first thing that you have to mention is that Nejire Hado has a completely new hairstyle, and I like this hairstyle better than her long hair by a mile. Horikoshi has been designing characters in a completely new way, mainly the female characters. He gave Ochako a completely new hairstyle after the Paranormal Liberation War arc. He gave Mei Hatsume a completely different hairstyle after the Paranormal Liberation War arc, and now we have Nejire Hado, whose hairstyle is just so cute. It's just a cute hairstyle, and she's over 18, so I can say cute, guys. Nonetheless, it's really good to see other characters doing hero work outside of the main characters. It just develops the world a little bit more, in my opinion. We see them save a group of civilians that probably were in danger from villain attacks, and Fat Gum tells the civilians that they should not worry and that they will take them to Shiketsu High, which, as we know, also has a barrier that rivals UA in some way, shape, or form. Now again, this is huge because it's possible that Horikoshi will introduce Shiketsu High back into the story, and we'll be able to see how characters like Inasa has developed since we've seen him in the provisional hero licensing exam. But in continuing, Ryukyu, who was also with Nejire Hado, Fat Gum, and Tamaki Amajiki, she mentions that if the number of people keeps dwindling, there will be a sharp drop in available information for the heroes, making it considerably more challenging than she would think. And Fat Gum replies saying if push comes to shove, then the next battle is going to be completely different than the two surprise attacks that the heroes attempted on the villains. Both sides will come with all they have, and it will be an all-out war. Horikoshi is 100% setting this war up to be the final battle of My Hero Academia. And it makes sense because Horikoshi did say that My Hero Academia was going to end in 2022. So now that the playing field is setting up, all we need to know is what the arrangements are for the heroes and how they're going to try to defeat the villains. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below, and check out this video right here if you want to see more My Hero Academia content. When you zone every single